You're listening to the Reality of It All podcast, candid conversations about today's hot topics. And now here's your host, Tracy Osborne. Hey, welcome back to the show. Today, we are talking about harnessing the power of the unconscious mind and, breaking through that burnout. Joining me today to talk about this is Tonia Winchester. Tonia, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited for our chat today.
This is going to be a lot of fun. This is, one of those topics that I can talk about forever and ever. So we're going to have a blast with it. And, I have to mention, I know you're currently working on a book, and the title I love is called Smiling in the Shower. And I absolutely love that title. I can't wait to find out more about what that book's going to be about.
Funnily enough, that title came to me in the shower, of course, when those great ideas come.
Yeah.
But it's actually one of my favorite testimonials from my clients. And it's the smallest little detail in her day-to-day life, but it is such a marker of massive change. And so that idea of just waking up and being excited for your day, smiling in the shower spontaneously, that to me is what is exciting about, helping people transform their lives. That simple thing.
I love it. It's funny how just something that small, that simple can completely change your mood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this particular client, she's like, this is how she said this to me. She said, my husband caught me smiling in the shower today.
What were you doing in the shower? Yeah.
It was that's a surprise for both of them. Yeah.
Sure.
It's like, wow. And so she's going to go forward into her day, impacting the people that she interacts with in this really positive, smile forward way. How amazing is that? The ripple effect that I think is really incredible to think about.
I love it, because that's exactly what I was thinking of was, not only can a smile just absolutely change your mood and your posture, your body language, your mindset, everything, but it can also really change somebody else's, someone who's having a bad day, who's, down in the dumps. Just a simple smile at them can really make a huge difference.
Yeah, you never know how that's going to affect someone. You're exactly right. Maybe someone just needs that small thing from someone else to have a better day.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard lots of stories from people who were going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Who, just some random stranger came up and even just said hi, just acknowledge that they were there, just something small. And it made all the difference in the world and completely changed their mindset.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah. And I think that just really affirms that human beings just want to be seen, and they want to be heard and acknowledged, accepted, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I love to do is, like when I'm out shopping or something, if it looks like the cashier is, they get pretty cranky dealing with the public, and I don't blame them. But if it looks like they're having a bad day, I will always find something to compliment them on. Yeah. I always make it a point. Hey, how's it going? How are you? How's your day going? That kind of thing, because so many people nowadays are just so self-absorbed. They're on their phone. They just completely ignore whoever they're dealing with. So, it's just those small things that really transcend, and just change our mind. And it is on the power of the unconscious level.
Yes, it is. I mean, especially when we're being triggered, all those things that we react with automatically, that is happening at such a deep level. And often we're aware of those reactions after, like, oh crap, I did that again. I said that thing again, or I had that tone in my voice again. And you don't really realize it until after, because they're just happening on autopilot, right? And so when we can consciously bring a new behavior change into our day and into how we interact with other people, I always say that it only takes one person to change a relationship, whether that's with a loved one or with a stranger, right?
Right.
And we can intentionally, make a new choice.
Definitely.
And how we show up. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking about a time many, many, many moons ago. I was having a really bad day, and I went into a jeweler's to pick up something I was having some work done on. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember that I was not happy. It wasn't done, or, whatever it was. And I completely lost it on the gal helping me.
Wow.
I mean, I just let her have it, both barrels. And I turned around and I walked out of the store. And I got in my car and I started going home. And at that time, I lived like a mile from the store, mile and a half. By the time I got home, I was feeling just so awful.
Yeah.
That I went and I called up the store and I asked for her. And I apologized. I was like, you know what? I am so sorry. I was having a bad day. Nothing against you at all. My behavior was completely unacceptable, and then I felt much better because, then she was able to say, okay, well, good. It wasn't anything I did, and so just those kinds of mindset shifts, I think really make a huge difference in how we interact with ourselves and how we interact with others.
Yeah. Yeah, really just stopping to reflect. And also, I think giving yourself permission to pause when you would normally have some kind of automatic reaction, and just taking a breath. Like, there is no rush to respond to what's happening. And you can just take a beat, gather yourself. Who is the person you want to be in this situation? How is it that you want to show up? What is going to be the most beneficial for all involved? And I think one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that everything that we're doing, again, especially all these automatic things that are happening on autopilot, these old triggers, old patterns, they're all trying to meet some sort of need. So it allows us to be more compassionate to the people that we're interacting with, especially if they're not behaving, in a super star kind of way. You can just start to be curious, like, what is this behavior trying to accomplish? What is the potential intention or gain from them acting that way? And probably it goes way back to when they were very young, and there was some sort of coping strategy that was developed by the unconscious mind to keep them safe in certain situations. And that's just still playing out in their adult lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way you can respond to that, works on so many levels. Yeah. There's a graphic, a meme that I saw somewhere, and I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it was something along the lines of, my husband and I have started, asking each other, do you just need me to listen, or do you need me to help, problem solve, or something along those lines? And that's exactly that is just a perfect way to respond to things, whether it's with your child or, a family member, a friend, a stranger, a coworker, whatever. It's, sometimes they just need someone to listen.
Yeah. And I think it's really amazing to be able to ask those questions. How can I support you right now? What is best? Like, what is my best use of me for you right now? And also on the flip, being able to say, right now, I just need you to listen. Or right now, I really need you to help me gain some clarity on what I'm trying to decide here.
Right.
And having the basic communication skills to state those needs really clearly. I am married to an introvert who says very few words in his day-to-day life. And I've learned, being married to him now 14 years, that I have to be very literal in my communication with him. So if I were to say, for example, it's garbage day, which clearly is me implying that it's time for him to take the garbage out. Obviously, like any woman listening to this is like, clearly.
Hello.
But for his mind, he just is like, oh, okay, interesting. Whereas if I'm like, will you please take out the garbage? He's like, sure. He's happy to help. But in this particular relationship, he just needs to know exactly what it is that I want him to do. If we were to do that sort of passive aggressive thing, if he asked me how I was, I'm like, fine. He wouldn't pursue that. He's like, well, you said fine.
Exactly. Fine is not fine. Fine is not fine on so many levels. But yeah, most men are just kind of like, okay, well, you said you were fine.
Yeah. And it's just a different sort of, I don't know if it's different wiring, like if it is a gender thing, if it's not a gender thing, I'm not really sure. But
right.
I think especially as women, taking that stand for ourselves and saying, this is what I need in this moment right now is really powerful. And sometimes we're not able to do that because of those sort of old stories and narratives and beliefs that we have from when we were young. Maybe it wasn't safe to speak up, or maybe we were told that, nice girls don't rock the boat, or whatever it was.
Right. Yeah. I'm kind of learning that with my fiance. We're still kind of learning each other's idiosyncrasies, and he's definitely one of those where I have to say, will you do this?
Yeah.
If I'm cleaning the house and I'm just, flying around, doing sweeping, mopping, all that kind of stuff, if I don't actually say, will you get up and help me, or will you do this activity, he will just, stay out of my way and sit and do nothing, which most of the time I don't care because cleaning is cathartic for me. But sometimes I get into this mood and I get pissed. It's like, get off your lazy butt and come help me. But it's not that he's, being rude or, lazy or anything like that. It's that he doesn't know what I need at that time because I'm not communicating it to him. And, and so that creates stress on me, creates stress on the relationship, creates stress for him, and it just all kind of comes back to that whole, mindset thing. Yeah.
I do find that some of my clients aren't able to really know what they want when I start working with them. They don't have that clarity or that ability to kind of distill down that really simple ask that they need help with. And when I do the work that I do with clients, we use these neurological reprogramming techniques to kind of just clear stuff out of their past. So there's no more charge in old stories, old traumas, old negative emotions. We clear them. So then they do have this present moment clarity of, oh, this is what I want, and this is how I can ask for it. It's really powerful to see that change in people. And so sometimes these really simple moments in our day are actually being fed again by these old ingrained neural pathways that are no longer serving us. At one point they did, but they no longer are helping us sort of live our best lives.
I totally love NLP. And, for those of you who are listening, who don't know what that is, it's neurolinguistic programming. And basically it's the repeated thought patterns that we have literally carve pathways in your brain. And, it makes it easy, think of it as, walking on a trail. The more people or, the more times you've walked on that trail, it gets, pat down, kind of faded out, makes it easier for you to move across it. Whereas opposed to if you veer off that trail and you have to go through the brush and the trees, it's a little bit more difficult. But if you keep doing it, then eventually that new path will wear down and will create, an easy pattern. And that's what NLP basically is. It's just
I love that.
Programming those, pathways in our brain.
Absolutely. I use that same example all the time. And that little deer trail, up the hill is like pokey, and there's dew on the leaves, and there's creatures. but it is the way out, like repaving that new way of being, that new way of thinking is the way out. And we're able, the brain, the mind is so powerful and plastic. We can actually change how the wiring is set up so that we are primed for smiling in the shower. We are primed for joy and positivity in our lives. It's really exciting.
It is. Yeah. It really is. I just had an example kind of pop into my head. And, for any of you who have ever done speaking or have gone to a Toastmasters group, and at Toastmasters, they actually will count the times that you say, I would totally fail at Toastmasters. I was in it a long time ago, but I was just kind of like, whatever. But, and that's exactly what they're doing, is they're helping you to be conscious of it so that you can reframe your brain, retrain your brain to not use those filler words. And so, that's exactly the same thing as what we're doing with NLP is, being conscious of the thoughts that we're having in order to reframe them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what most people don't realize is that any given second, there's billions of bits of information coming at us through all of our senses, coming into our central nervous system through our sight, our hearing, our taste, touch, all of the senses, right? And our minds can handle about 134 bits per second. So the majority of the information coming at us has to be either deleted, filtered out somehow, so it's distorted, or what we would call generalized. So what we're actually perceiving as reality is just a small, tiny speck of what's actually going on around us. And I always think of if you went into a room and there was a really strong perfume in the room, and you're like, oh, that's really, really intense. But over time, you wouldn't notice that scent as much anymore, if at all. And your nervous system has basically stopped telling you that. It stopped giving you that information because there's other things that you need to be paying attention to. But were you to leave that room and come back, you'd be aware of it again. This filtration system that is set up so that we can handle reality is really important to start to check yourself on. And I always encourage people to start to pay attention to the words that they're using, the language that they're using. Mm-hmm. It's not only how we describe our world, but it's actually how we experience our world. So I offer people to start looking for what places where they say always or never or everyone or no one, because it's very unlikely that if you're like, oh, I'm always feeling it, everything I do. Well, you're successfully breathing right now. You're successfully walking around. You're successfully feeding yourself breakfast. It's very likely to be possible that everything that you do, you're feeling at. So this is a way we can start to, again, become conscious of those filters, those patterns inside our minds that are worth changing.
Yeah, sounds like my teenagers. Oh, they're always doing this. I never get to do this. Everyone's doing it. That's not reality. It's
not reality. That's right.
It may feel like it in the moment, but it's really not reality.
And it's good to have a buddy to challenge you on this stuff, to say,
absolutely.
Hey, what do you mean never? Let's really break that down. Really? Never? Honestly? And just start to kind of dismantle the belief structure that's creating that language pattern.
I love it. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And something that we haven't touched on really yet is, how changing our mind and our mindset and our mind patterns can help us to overcome the burnout, deal with anxiety and stress, because I think a lot of that is self-imposed.
Yeah. And not consciously, I would say.
Right.
Unconsciously, those things are self-imposed. Absolutely. And for me, the burnout cycle looks like this. So people have stress going on in their lives. And that's going to amplify how their nervous system is functioning. And it might even start to cause anxiety, which is going to typically create really restless sleeps or even insomnia patterns where people are waking up in the middle of the night, not able to fall back asleep. And then, of course, they wake up tired, they're exhausted, then they become irritable with the people that they care about, all the humans that they're trying to be good and kind to, they're not able to because they don't have the internal resources to be kind. And that's going to create more stress and the cycle continues. So to me, that's the burnout cycle. And that's what I really help people break through. And the unconscious mind is driving this cycle on autopilot, like we've been covering. And it's almost like a habit. It's almost like I'm even going to choose to use the word addiction here. And there's this rhythm that's just been set up over time and practiced and practiced and practiced, like that more comfortable, forest path to walk on that's wide and well-worn. The way out, of course, is through the unconscious mind and accessing it and changing it, because that's actually where all change, all behavior, all healing happens, all learning happens in the unconscious mind. And I always like to give this example. So if you were, let's even just say this, like, if you were to just stop right now and think about who is breathing for you right now, of course it's you, and it's that part of you under the surface below your awareness, right? You're not aware of the fact that you're breathing, your heart beating, you're digesting your food. And if you were to know how hair grew, as an example, so you had a PhD in hair growth, you knew exactly what nutrients needed to be consumed, exactly what needed to happen digestively. Those nutrients get absorbed. You knew exactly what had to happen within a cell to produce hair. Even if you knew all of those details consciously, you couldn't stop or start your hair growing at will, right? Again, it's happening under the surface.
Wouldn't that be nice if you could?
Yeah. Today I want curly hair, please. Go. Maybe really enlightened people can do that. I'm not.
Right.
So when we want to change, say, something like the burnout cycle, we need to access the patterns that are driving that cycle, access the things below the conscious level, below our awareness that are driving those patterns. And again, going back to the idea that every behavior is meeting some sort of need, we can go back in someone's timeline, essentially, and look at what some of the inciting incidences might be that would be creating that cycle. Maybe there's some kind of benefit to being irritated with people and kind of keeping them at a distance. Maybe that's safer. So this whole sort of scheme has been set up to keep you well. And what I do with my clients when we're kind of clearing the past is we use something called the timeline therapy. We go back and we swap out negative experiences, negative emotions for positive learnings, things that you can take with you into the present, into the future, that are just a new perspective on what happened before. And that new perspective is enough to start paving that new neural pathway, that new way of being more present and open and conscious with people around you. And so as a result, that tension comes out of the nervous system, sleep deepens, energy restores, and we see a really positive affirming cycle versus that negative burnout cycle.
Absolutely. I like that. So thank you so much, Tonia, for coming on and talking with me today. This has been fun. The time went by fast.
It did, yeah.
And it was great to, remind myself actually that I need to start paying attention again to my thoughts, how I think about things, myself, other people, and, really start making those changes to, just kind of improve upon myself, because it's like a never ending process.
Absolutely.
So that was a great reminder for me. Thank you.
Oh yeah. You're so welcome. Yeah. It's been really fun to chat about and hash out some of these ideas.
Yes, definitely. I can't wait till your book is done. Do you have a release date yet?
No, I'm hoping for the new year. I'm like really gung-ho and very ambitiously working on this early in the morning every day. I've got the first draft done. So get it off to an editor and get those next steps in process. Maybe mid-January, end of January, I'm hoping.
Oh, well, definitely let me know when it goes live.
I will, absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
And I can let everybody know, because I know we all want to get a copy. This is going to be a fantastic book. Listeners, you can find Tonia on the web at toniawinchester.com. That's TONIA Winchester.com. And I will have all of her contact information in the show notes as always. So thank you again, Tonia, for joining us. And listeners, thank you for joining us. And we'll talk to you next time. That's it for today's show. Thanks for listening. Be sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok.